The 1960 versus 1093 KVK round 3 is finally over, and 1960 has won. So in today's video, we're going to be recapping the whole KVK, going stream by stream, going through the main talking points and touch points from pre-KVK until the end of Kingsland. Let's get into it. So I guess we could give some context before KVK, which is the Seawill podcast that we had with Redline. A recap of this is neither side from what Seawill was saying. Both 960 and 1093 didn't really set up this KVK. For example, last KVK 2377, we wanted to fight 2377. A bunch of other kingdoms came in to join the party. This KVK was kind of more impromptu. You guys might remember that 960 was put into no match found 3 times this offseason. We were just trying to find a relatively laid back, chill KVK, not a farming KVK by any means, but something to recover from 2377. What ended up happening was we went to max skip alongside 1093 after that 2377 KVK, and we ended up in the same map. When we saw the campmates or whatever, when we saw the allies, it was pretty obvious that Earth Camp was favored over Water Camp. So both sides, what Seawill said in this podcast, was both sides wanted to have Earth Camp as allies. The way that it was laid down, or the way that allies came to be, was based off of Earth Camp. Earth Camp had the option of either allying with 1960 or allying with 1093. And at the end of the day, Earth Camp decided to ally with 1960. And yeah, that's what ended up happening. That was the KVK. That's how we set up the KVK. Now, going into the first zone. The first zone was pretty successful from us in the beginning. We random teleported. We were able to, TP onto their flag lines. This is the first zone stream. You could see that they had a pretty defensive positioning here. This is the middle point here, usually. And usually people try to, build forts around this and try to get to this as soon as possible. This is kind of like the only objective outside of the bastions. It gives 10% march speed, which is pretty, significant. But as you can see, Water Camp was playing pretty defensively here. And honestly, it kind of worked out because once territory stabilized, they were able to go toe-to-toe against us. Just the sheer numbers of 5 camps versus a 960 that only had 5 or 6 marches each was pretty overwhelming at points, and it was a really even fight in Zone 5. In fact, like during the uptime, we couldn't really push them that much. We were burning them a little bit, but it was a labored effort. It wasn't free. And then what happened was Water Camp went into downtime. And when Water Camp went into downtime, we started building a fort. We were able to find a pretty good fort spot, like right behind their fort wall that they built. So they had the fort wall here, and then we were able to build like a fort behind the fort wall, essentially nullifying the fort wall that they had. The thing about forts in these early zones is that they're super painful to rally and kind of swarm down, and so we were able to kind of get a fort drop behind their fort wall, which was really, really good, and essentially ended the zone. Like, we were able to build this fort, and it essentially ended the zone 5, because now the fort wall was done. I guess they could have forted around this fort, but I don't know. They saw the writing on the wall. It's like there's no point. Once this fort built, it was actually a pretty close fight. They had rallies on it. They almost pushed us back a little. You could see this was a pretty intense fight. Water Camp definitely woke up once we dropped this fort. Eventually, we were able to build the fort. They were rallying and sending them open field marches there for like 2 hours, but then within the last hour, they kind of like died down a little bit, kind of gave up on the fort. And yeah, we were able to build this fort, ending the zone. I think the fort might still be there. Yeah, it's right here. It's literally right here. This is a fort that we built. This was where the forts were from Water Camp. And yeah, we were able to just burn down the forts, end the zone, and that was the first 24-hour fight that we had in Pass 4 Zone 5. But essentially, for the altars, we got pings from leadership to be like, all right, we can't contest altars. There's no point. It's 5 kingdoms versus 1. And for those that don't know, you could only bring 1 march to altars. So it would have been like a death wish to fight altars against Water Camp with 5 kingdoms. So we didn't contest altars at all. So the next fight after Zone 5 here was Pass 7. Past 7 fights are usually pretty sleeper because you could see that there's a fort wall from both sides. We have forts here, they have forts there. Same thing with 1093 and Earth Camp. So usually not much happens in past 7s. We were able to get the first capture on the pass, but the thing about Water Camp is that like they have a ton of numbers, bro. Water Camp have a ton of numbers. So you can see we're trying to push out of the pass. I don't know why the quality is so bad, but we're trying to push out of the pass and all my marches are sad faced. It's just an absolute ton of marches from them. They're able to get like double rallies off, but we were able to hold it off for quite some time. And this was kind of the trend during the past 7, except during their downtime, we were able to push out onto their territory, burn some of their forts. So not much of note against Water Camp for the most part. What was of note though was when we went over so what essentially happened was we also built in the Earth Camp Pass. We built this 68E territory over here, and what happened was Earth Camp actually had forts here, but then we made them delete the forts so that we could build touch points towards this pass. But during 1093's uptime and Water Camp's uptime, we were focusing on Water Camp. 1093 were able to burn down the flags that we had here, and they were able to build like kind of a nook. They were able to build like flag coverage and have like this space to build a fort. So what ended up happening was they're building a fort, and if that fort built, it would have been really bad for the zone. It would have essentially meant that we couldn't contest that pass, and they would have full pass control for the rest of the KVK. I mean, they still have pass control till now, but we really want to make sure that we burnt down this fort. So we brought everyone from the left side over to the right side. That allowed Water Camp to take back the pass, or take the pass on the left side. But with the help of Earth Camp, this is essentially a 1 versus 2. Shout out to 1093 because like they were, even though Earth Camp was in downtime, Earth Camp still brought some numbers, but they were pushing us back onto territory. It was a really painful fight against these guys, but we were able to eventually burn down the flags defending the fort. And then eventually, after some time, we're able to burn the fort down. Yeah, you can see that the fort now is undefended. We were able to burn a flag. Yeah, we got the rally coming in. And then the fort was undefended because we burnt down the flags. And then we were able to burn down the 1093 fort. And that's pretty much the only thing of note for past 7. And then, yeah, the next stream was us taking back the pass that Water took from us. This was the next day. This stream was pretty much just us staring at rallies. Not much going on. This is your typical past 7 experience, right? But the rallies are really good reports. Let's see if we could find one. There was like a 2-hour rally at one point. And then eventually we were able to take the pass. And then from there, Water Camp prepared for Kingsland. Next is Kingsland. So what happened was I didn't actually stream the opening, the pass opening. I streamed 10 minutes after because that's just a rule in 960 to stream 10 minutes after. So, you know, respecting the rule. But as you can see, 1093 was cooking us in the beginning of Kingsland here. Kingsland was super tough against 1093. You could see that they have a lot of open field marches. This was actually a huge choke here. They were able to outbuild us to this area. If we were able to get to this area, then perhaps we would have better territory, but I mean, with the amount of open field that they had, it was super tough to even push against these guys and even build against these guys, because 1093 is super smart. They would put the open field where we were going to build flags. They would delay our flag builds over and over again. And that made it so that like our territory was kind of cooked. You could see that they're over here. These flags are probably not even filled because they have open field blocking the flags so that, you know, we wouldn't be able to fill it and they would be able to, you know, build these flags before us. And you can see that they're getting ready for the flag swarm here. And look, they built the territory and now they're swarming down the flag. And the flag was cooked at that point. We had a secondary flag on top just in case, but yeah, I mean, it was a cooked opening, man. just to show in game here, we were coming out of the pass. We were able to get the Fort Hop here, but from here, from the 93T territory, they're able to build out a lot of territory up through this way, to the point where we were relegated to one flag line. Like, we only had one line of flags in the first day of Kingsland. Yeah, they were just able to build a lot more territory than us, a lot faster. We could see that. You can see the territory building up here. Look at this. They're able to build this, deny this territory from us, and then we had like we were just like trying to build as fast as possible. You can see that they're outbuilding us right here. This is a building flag from 1093. We had this line of Kingsland territory. This was it. This was our lifeline for KVK. If we didn't have this line, it would have been over. So yeah, we were like scrambling. It was absolutely mayhem, and 1093 were living in it. They were doing really well. Once territory finally, settled down, we ended up only having one line to teleport on, which was super tough. And it made holding and pushing really tough, because we'd have people that were refreshing from like 3 minutes away, 4 minutes away. Just due to the amount of territory. Meanwhile, for 1093, they were able to, refresh a bit faster. They had a couple back flags worth of territory. And this is kind of like, what we call this, Rocky Road or the Ridge of Death or something, because we were fighting here like in this exact same spot for hours. We were fighting in the same spot. Like, wait, I'm pushing. This is a full hour later. We're in the exact same spot. Another 30 minutes, we're in the exact same spot, to the point where like I wanted to move to somewhere else. I moved to the other side because I was tired of fighting in the same area. But yeah, the first day of territory, you could see that they're pushing our flags here. We were able to hold it off and get some holds, but for the most part, they're able to at least get to our flags and get a couple burns off as well. Like, we couldn't even approach the rally to swarm it because they just had so much field presence around this flag. Shout out to all the flag fillers around here. I'm pretty sure Addy and Chopper and Aang were just hard stuffing this flag to keep it alive. And yeah, you can see that the flag's still alive here. So it was kind of a back and forth affair once the territory stabilized here. We couldn't really burn them, they couldn't really burn us, at least for the first day. And then let me see, what is next here? The little territory we were able to gain during their downtime was around the ziggurat, close to our allies, because what would happen was, because they had such a building advantage on us, they were able to like build a lot of territory that would eventually touch Earth Camp. So Earth Camp was over here. Earth Camp had territory here, but then 1093, because they're able to outbuild us, kind of pushed us away from Zig and even had a touch point with their allies in Earth Camp. And Earth Camp was cooking on this side of the map, but when it came to this side, they really couldn't contest because 1093 was sending open field here. There would be some of Water Camp also sending some field here. And Earth Camp was essentially free burning a lot of territory on this side because we couldn't, help them out or close out Water Camp. So I think one of the big times was the downtime or the evening of day one, because you could see these flags here. We were able to burn a lot of these flags on the left side, essentially cutting off 1093 from Earth Camp. And that was a pretty successful, you can see this is our push onto the flags here. I think Earth Camp even helped us to burn some flags, yeah, because this was Water Camp's downtime. So Earth Camp was like, all right, let's get 1093 off our tails. Let's help 960 burn off 1093 here. And you can see that we're burning this flag up here, we're burning this flag over here. We started burning all this territory. But yeah, so this is essentially the evening where we were able to burn off these touch points of Earth Camp and 1093, allowing Earth Camp to just solely focus on Water Camp. This is when it started getting dire though. Day 2, oh my goodness, shout out to 1093 during day 2, because day 2 was crazy from 1093. Day 2 was the Saturday. 1093 started to really push us during this day. You could see that, you know, this side was pretty even, but this was like going into their uptime. I'm doing a little bit of a map review. You can see that the territory is pretty even. But around this time, they started pushing us heavy. Like, they were pushing us like crazy. They were able to burn a lot of flags. And the thing, look, you can see all these flags over here that we just gained are now burning, and they're starting to work towards Earth Camp yet again. The thing about 1093 that's super impressive is that they're super coordinated. They would have like a rally set, and we'd think that they're going to one flag, and then they would all of a sudden shift to the other flag, and that flag wouldn't have the backup garrisons ready, or the swarmers in the cities ready, or the reinforcements in the cities ready. So they're able to get burns and kind of ping pong us all over the place, and it was like we just couldn't respond because we didn't have the open field, and we didn't have the rotations. The rotations weren't as crisp. We weren't on our game during day 2 for sure. Like, it was getting pretty bad. My trades were horrible this day. Yeah, you could see by the end of this stream, like, it was getting super tough. I'm like swarming down the rally as much. Well, I'm trying to swarm down the rally. I guess I'm not here because it's so deep into the murder ball there. But I was swarming down rallies and stuff. It was rough. To the point where, you know how we had that line of territory? This is what it looked like now. We completely lost the line by the evening. By the time it was their downtime, we completely lost the line. We lost this side of the territory here as well. We lost this side of the territory here as well. They're pushing towards our pass. And then they were like, it was looking really grim because we could not burn them, and they were just burning us, and they were gaining a lot of ground around this time. And like the only copium we had was to look at Earth Camp and like, hey, look, they're pushing. They're doing well, because we were not making any ground around here, to the point where like we started building forts to make sure that they couldn't free build and free burn us. But I think this downtime of 1093 proved to be crucial, because you could see that we're building flags right now, and it's kind of weird because like how are we building, or why are we building a flag here? We're replacing the MX territory. Like, let's go back here. We're replacing the MX territory with GT territory. So you could see 60 MX, right? This line used to be 60 MX. But because they were like pretty much one flag away from cutting us, we changed the territory that we had here into 60 GT territory. So 60 GT was coming actually out of the left zone 7, the top pass of left zone 7. And we were able to kind of snake territory here and build territory here. This was a really big point for the KVK, because if we had the MX territory and if we kept it as MX, then 1093 would have probably cut us, and then this KVK would have been over. We wouldn't have this territory. They would have been able to push out Earth Camp. It would have been over, would have been done. But what happened was, during the downtime of day 2, we were able to delete 60 MX flags, replace it with 60 GT flags, and luckily enough, 1093 went to sleep, man. 1093, you can see this is their downtime chat. Look at the open field that they had. They still outnumbered us, bro. They still outnumbered us. I feel like they probably could have played a little bit more aggressive and burnt these flags. Because yeah, we're just building in front of their face, but essentially, if they had a couple more people online, stopped the GT flags from burning, kind of pushed into that territory that we're essentially giving them for free because we're deleting our own flags and building flags. Thankfully, like, it was, kind of a stalemate here. We were able to kind of push them off our flag line. They started getting more and more offline. And then this was kind of like the first sign of life that we had. This was the first sign of life. This was the one win condition that we had. Because before, like, I couldn't even picture 960 winning. There was like no win condition because we couldn't even push them during their downtime. But during day 2 of this pass opening, it's really started opening up for us. We were able to burn a couple flags, start creating some territory, actually have a flag line that had more than one flag, so we actually had teleport space for once. And you can see, like, this stream was pretty much just us pushing and us getting some burns off and getting some territory for once. And this ended up, I think the night of day 2 was probably the most crucial night because that was make or break. If they continue pushing and kind of kicked us out of our territory outside of the ziggurat there, we would have been cooked for the KVK. That night was like the first time we gained territory, and we gained a lot of good territory, a lot of good teleport space. This is the day 4 fights, because day 3 we had the zeroed podcast. I didn't really stream too much, because I kind of want to lock in low key, because I feel like it's easier to fight off stream because you could see markers, you could kind of like, you know, follow instructions more, talk on DC. Not that I talked much, but this is me giving a little bit of a territory update. You can see that the territory kind of stagnated. They took our pass last time. Now we took it back. We were able to, you know, get some territory down here. We're able to gain some territory here. Day 4 was day 4 was Sunday going into Monday. I don't know exactly what happened to 1093. I feel like it was a little bit of, I mean, people from 1093 could say, but my inference would be, in day 4, 1093's activity started to die down a little bit, because I would assume perhaps is to get ready for work, or some people were going into their work day or work week, or maybe some people were just out of speed ups and resources. I don't know what exactly happened, but we were cooking, and you know, Earth Camp was here as well, and Earth Camp kind of helped us quite a bit with a couple flag burns. They would help us from the transition of 1093 uptime to 1093 downtime to get the flag burns maybe like an hour or an hour and a half earlier than we would have, because water camp would go to sleep, and then they wouldn't have anything to do, so they would help us get some flag burns. And this is me showing the territory. One thing I will say about day 3 that I feel like might have been a mistake was day 3 was kind of pivotal, because 1093 stopped trying to push us. 1093, they built, you could see that they built territory here, and they were helping water camp push out. And then you could see like a little bit of purple in the bottom corner here. They actually had territory. I think they might still have it, actually. Let me go in game here. Yeah, they built territory here to try to help Earth Camp, to help Water Camp against Earth Camp, and they're able to push Earth Camp a little bit, but they kind of split their focus into supporting Water Camp. And what ended up happening was we were able to hold the territory that we gained. And day 3 was actually, I didn't really stream it much, but day 3 was the first time during their uptime that we were able to hold territory, and that was because they kind of had a split focus. And then that led into more momentum than day 4. Look how much territory we gained here from day 3. And then day 4 was just gaining more and more territory. You could see that, you know, we're continuing to burn them. We're continuing to open field with them. I mean, they're still really labored and really contested, but you could see that we're pretty deep into their territory. Our ball started getting more and more success. Like, we wouldn't be able to push their ball at all, but during day 4 we were able to push their ball quite a bit, allowing us to give breathing room for our rallies so that they could actually do some damage. At the end of the day, like, we were able to gain a lot of territory, and this, I think day 4 was the first time we were able to gain territory during their uptime. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot, between day 3 and day 4 when we were cooking, there was a maintenance, a 3-hour maintenance, which really pissed off a lot of 960 members, because it was during 1093's downtime, and we would have had 3 extra hours of burning, and that was like super disheartening. But eventually, this is the downtime of 1093 during day 4, the last stream that we had, and it was honestly kind of dead. 1093, I feel like kind of threw in the towel at this point. They you can see that there's no field semblance. There's no semblance of open field. They had a bunch of farm accounts and a bunch of like garrisons around, but that was pretty much it. And we were able to gain a lot of territory during this time, to where when it became their uptime, I think they just called it quits, because it was just so much territory that we were gaining. That pretty much leads us to our map state today. So we were able to burn off this territory here. Yesterday we were just free burning them, and now they are pretty much officially out of Kingsland. So that's the recap of the KVK in a nutshell, going through all the streams. It took a little bit longer than I thought it would, but